Straight talk from Israel. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Election cheating and manipulation in the United States. Can this affect possible upcoming Israeli elections? Well, we're going to be talking about both of the elections in America, what just took place, and what might be happening in Israel very soon. Because if you've been paying attention to the news, you've seen the last few days, there has been talk about a possible dissolving of the Knesset even as soon as midweek this week, which means that Israel would be going to elections perhaps in the next 90 days or so. And how are these elections run? Now, we hear about all the tampering, the manipulation, the cheating, the fraud that possibly went on in the United States. If you're looking at U.S. President Donald Trump, he says that they have proof of it. And if indeed he is right, and it is proved in court beyond a doubt, and then we understand that we're using a lot of the same, perhaps, voting system as in America, and or the manipulation that they did in America is bleeding on over here in Israel. How could that affect our elections? Well, today we're going to be talking with Dr. Mordechai Ben-Menachem. And he's going to be talking to us about that on the Israeli side. We're also going to be talking about the assassination of an Iranian scientist who is one of the heads of their nuclear program. And we're going to find out what that could mean to stability here in the Middle East. Let's not forget that Iran is not just an enemy of Israel, but it is also an enemy of the big Satan, America. They say it themselves. I'm using their words. Also, we're going to be having on Alan Dershowitz today. He's going to be talking to us about the aftermath of the U.S. elections and what's going on there. He's going to be talking about constitutional law. I'm going to be asking him about what happens if both claim that they're the winner and no one wants to concede. What would happen then? All right, all this coming up today on the show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back. You're listening to the Tamar Yonah Show here at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com.
How did a nice Jewish girl from Delaware end up living in Israel? Shalom, I'm Natalie Sapinski. Join me on my show, Returning Home. Meet different people who have moved to Israel. Hear their personal stories, their highs, their lows, and everything in between. Each week, we talk to experts on immigration and the process of moving to Israel. Listen to Returning Home every Thursday, only on Israel News Talk Radio.
Election cheating and manipulation in the United States. Can this affect possible upcoming Israeli elections? Hark, what did I say? Upcoming Israeli elections? Well, just 2 days ago, the Jerusalem Post reported that Bibi Netanyahu warns that the elections could be on the way. And in another, the Times of Israel, they are saying here, amid election buzz, polls give Likud the most seats with Yamina at its heels. And they're all saying that there's a problem in the government, arguing they may need to dissolve. Here to tell us more about it, we have our guest, Dr. Mordechai Ben-Menachem. He's a researcher, former lecturer at Ben-Gurion University, and has authored over 70 books and 400 research papers on science, history, and more. He commentates on Mideastern world issues. Welcome to the show, Dr. Mordechai Ben-Menachem.
Thank you.
So, the United States has in the past used strong methods to influence Israeli elections and the Israeli election process. And in light of what we're hearing about today, Scorecard, Hammer, and other CIA-developed tools to cause false election results in other countries, now maybe the United States as well, how will the next election, which may happen soon here in Israel, likely be affected by these processes?
Let me preface my remarks, first of all, by giving a brief statement of where I'm coming from, who am I, where this is concerned. And I should say that my background for about 5 decades was I worked in systems reliability. I wrote most of the international standards concerning systems quality and systems reliability. I wrote many textbooks in the area. So I think I can claim, and of course, more articles than I can possibly count. I think I can claim that I have something to say about the reliability of systems, particularly systems of the nature of those that we're speaking of at the moment, like Hammer, Scorecard, Dominion, Smartmatic, and blah, blah, blah. And there are so many names that it's driving everybody crazy. So first of all, this is a basic question. Can the United States directly influence elections in other countries? The answer to that is absolutely. There is no doubt that they can. There is no doubt that they have, because they've even said so. Remember, in 2015, Obama tried very hard to influence the elections here, but he failed because his systems were not powerful enough. Hammer and Scorecard were developed by the CIA during the Bush administration. And when Obama came into office, he took them out of the CIA and brought them directly under the White House. And that we have from a general who was directly involved in the thing, an American general, 3-star general. So can they influence? Yes. Have they influenced? Yes. We know this. This is not theory. This is fact. Can they significantly influence an upcoming election? That remains to be seen. It is not clear at this point if the authorities here have insulated our election process to avoid this type of direct interference in our election.
You know, they say that it's not just America, but the Democrats have been saying that the Russians have been influencing American elections.
If this installation has occurred or not. Can an installation like that be implemented? Absolutely.
Okay, Mordechai, I don't know if you heard me because the connection is bad, but I was remarking that
very well.
Remarking that the American Democrats are claiming that the Russians have interfered in their elections and have manipulated it. So
I'm hearing you very well. I'm answering you.
Okay.
If you want to know what the left is doing, listen to what they're accusing the other side of doing. That's what Noam Chomsky's book is all about. You accuse the other side so that you hide what you're doing yourself. Mm-hmm. So if they're accusing the Trump administration or anybody else of, for instance, being unduly influenced by Russia, then they are using undue influence. That's the way it works. That's the way the small is designed. I'm sorry, the left is designed.
Okay, but let me ask you this question. The fact that Netanyahu is still prime minister of Israel after the last elections, and they've been trying to get him out, they haven't succeeded, even with their tricks and manipulations.
Absolutely correct.
Okay.
Your statement is absolutely correct. And it's not clear that they will succeed in getting out Trump either. Uh-huh. But that doesn't prevent them from trying.
Right. Okay. All right, let me ask you, we only have about 5 minutes left. I want to change subjects if I might, unless you wanted to finish up with something here.
No, you're fine. No problem.
Okay. The big news here in Israel, of course, is the assassination of the one of the top scientists of the nuclear program in Iran. Iran is very upset. In fact, I believe it was some former CIA director who tweeted that Iran should calm down, not do anything rash, and wait until the Biden administration gets in, because it's going to be much better under Biden with Iran, and not to do anything now, because they're saying that they might want to hit Israel or America or whatever. So what do you have to say? How is the assassination going to affect the Middle East and relations with the United States?
It's an excellent question. We don't know how it's going to affect. We asked the same question, if I remember correctly, when Qasem Soleimani was taken out. And it turns out that it had relatively small effect in terms of detrimental effects. It had a good effect in terms of what the Iranian capabilities, because he was a key person. I suspect at the moment that we'll see something similar here. Clearly, I don't have any direct knowledge. I'm looking at only from public information, but I suspect that the Iranians will do something to somehow save face. But basically, there's not a bloody thing that they can do.
Okay. Well, what do you have to say that under the people? Let me put it this way: there are people who believe that they're supporting Israel by voting for Biden, and yet when they see who likes Biden, it's seems to be the enemies of the United States and Israel, like Iran was very happy if Biden really did win. The terrorist groups like Hezbollah, Hamas, etc., and other countries as well that are not so pro-West. What do you have to say about all of that?
It's attributed to Abraham Lincoln that he asked, how many legs does a dog have if you count the tail? And the answer, of course, is still has 4, because you can make believe, it doesn't make it true. So all of these people that think that Biden is pro-Israel are fools. Biden, in his actions, not in his words, because he's always been a liar, in his actions, he has never, with his horrible statements to Menachem Begin. We're familiar with what he said to Golda Meir. We're familiar with what he said while he was vice president. The man is a horror. And if you look at the people that he's appointing, come on. I mean, the most egregious example is John Kerry, who has 6 houses, tens of airplanes and automobiles, one of the largest carbon footprints in the planet for an individual, more than some countries have, and he's appointed him to be in charge of climate change. The man is a clown.
All right, or a puppet. I think maybe that's a better word. And so you can tell who a person is by their friends. And if the friends of Joe Biden, of a Joe Biden administration would be Iran, that should be very troubling to people who claim to support Israel and freedom and Western values or Judeo-Christian values.
You can't claim to support freedom and Western values if you're cheating in elections and cheating in other people's elections. Nobody can have one iota of trust in the American government or in the American CIA when they're talking about elections. They are liars, they're cheaters, and they're thieves.
Right. All right. So in the last 2 minutes that we have, what would you like to leave us with?
I think the two questions, the two subjects that you asked are intimately linked. I don't think there's any real space between the issue of fair and free elections in various countries and the issue of some senior person in Iran being assassinated. Again, I have no idea who did it. I would hope it would be us. I certainly don't know, and if I did, I wouldn't say. But these things are linked. We have to remember that the world is really a bunch of interlinked networks. Nothing happens by itself. Nothing is isolated anymore.
Absolutely. It's a small world.
And getting smaller all the time.
Right. Okay. And so you still have another minute if you want to leave us with something else.
Sorry, I didn't notice that. Okay, so I'm saying that right now, everybody needs to be looking very carefully at what's going on in the United States with all these legal issues. Again, I'm not making a prediction. I don't know who actually won the elections in the United States. I don't have any tools in order to state definitively anything about that, other than the fact that the processes are fascinating. And even more fascinating to me is the information being revealed and what it means about the actions of the United States over the last decade and so. People need to be very aware that basically we've been living a lie. Liberal democracy is neither liberal nor democracy.
Well, I guess we are woke in that sense. All right. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Dr. Mordechai Ben-Menachem. When we get back, we're going to be speaking with Alan Dershowitz. Don't go anywhere.
Shalom, everybody. Making a difference often takes just one moment and one person at a time. I'm Orly Benny Davis, your show host on Israel News Talk Radios from Jerusalem with love. You'll be hearing people talking about politics, religion, social issues, and making a better tomorrow. Join me, Orly Benny Davis, for God and Country. From Jerusalem with love.
Wednesdays on Israel News Talk Radio.
Psalm 23, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. Did you know this psalm and many others were composed by a Jewish shepherd and musician who later became a king? Would you like to know some of the inner meanings of Psalms to help you connect with God and strengthen your soul? An exciting and easy-to-read book is now available which will help you do just that. Software for the Soul, Psalms for Everyone, available on Kindle, Audible, and Amazon.com. Software for the Soul.
All right, it is a couple of weeks at least after the elections in the United States, and still it is unknown who officially has won the election. Our next guest is Professor Alan Dershowitz. He's an American lawyer known for his scholarship of U.S. constitutional law, American criminal law, and a noted advocate of civil liberties. He was a professor at Harvard University and has written dozens and dozens of books, including Chutzpah, The Case for Israel, The Vanishing American Jew, and his latest book, Cancel Culture, the latest attack on free speech and due process. He's a regular media contributor, political commentator, and legal analyst. He also has a podcast called The Der Show, which you can access by following him on Twitter. He leaves links for his shows there, his podcast there. Lately, he's been commenting on the progressive left Democrats and the aftermath of the U.S. elections on media, and that's what we're going to be talking to him about today as well. So welcome to the show, Professor Alan Dershowitz.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be on with you.
Well, I'm thrilled. And we want to understand how the election process works there after we've seen what's happened in the United States, where you have you have each side saying perhaps that the other side cheated. What happens if the official election results actually come in and both parties say, no, the other side cheated, I'm not stepping down, and nobody concedes?
Well, this happened a couple of times in the 19th century in American history. It's not going to happen this time. I think that the margin of victory that Biden has is so considerable that it will not go to the House of Representatives, where the Constitution puts it, if there's not a number of electors that constitute a majority. All that Biden needs is 270 votes. He has 306 already. Even if a few are challenged, that won't bring him down below 270. I don't blame Trump and his lawyers for challenging every aspect of this election. They have the right to do that. They're coming up with some very clever arguments. In one case in Pennsylvania, they're trying to get the legislature to name the electors rather than the popular vote to name the electors. In the end, none of it will work. And in the end, President Trump has said that if the Electoral College gives the 270 plus votes to Biden, on December 14th, he will leave and there will be a peaceful transfer. Whether he will ever concede defeat, I don't know. He may run again in 4 years, claiming that the election was stolen from him. That's his right. Politically, he has now cooperated with the transition, so he has no further obligations. Most losers in a presidential election do concede, but there's no obligation either constitutionally, ethically, morally, politically to concede if you don't believe the election was fair.
So you don't see any way in your analysis that Trump is going to be able to win this election?
I don't think the numbers are there. He could win legally. In Pennsylvania, he has a very, very good chance of winning because there are two violations of law that the Supreme Court might well recognize. One, the time for receiving ballots was extended by 3 days by the courts, and the Constitution says only the legislature can select the method of voting. I think they would win that. And then there was a challenge under equal protection that some counties allow flawed ballots to be corrected and others don't. But the numbers of challenged ballots don't come close to the 80,000 plus margin that Biden has. So it would be a Pyrrhic victory. It would be a theoretical victory, but it wouldn't turn around Pennsylvania. And even if it turned around Pennsylvania, he would have to turn around Georgia and Nevada and Arizona and maybe Michigan. And I just don't see that happening.
Wow. And so if Biden does get elected president officially, and he's already building up his administration, we see where it's going. We see it's very left. It's a bit progressive, maybe not as progressive as the progressives in the Democratic Party wanted it to go. But we see also the stance of enemies of the United States, like Iran, the country that regularly chants death to America. You know, they're the big Satan, Israel's the little Satan. And these are the people that are happy that Biden's winning. Isn't that a bad omen for the American people?
Remember that Biden won the nomination by opposing the so-called progressives. First of all, the so-called progressives are anything but progressive. They're regressives. They want to deny free speech. They want to deny due process. They are often supportive of tyrannical leftist regimes around the world, but they lost the nomination. And Biden's already picked people for his cabinet who are not part of that squad, not part of what the self-proclaimed progressives. He's picked relative moderates, moderates that lean to the left the way perhaps President Obama leaned to the left or President Clinton leaned to the left. But this was not a victory for the so-called progressive, I call regressives. It was a victory for the center-left moderates. So I don't anticipate that there'll be the most dramatic changes. There'll be dramatic changes in healthcare, in probably gay rights, capital punishment, social issues of that kind. And maybe the Biden administration will try to get back into the Iran deal, which I think would be a mistake unless they changed it considerably. But just because Iran is happy doesn't mean that American liberals, centrist liberals, shouldn't be happy as well. Look, both the vast majority of American Jews voted for Biden and the vast majority of American Muslims voted for Biden. So it's complicated. More people voted in this election than ever before. President Trump got the second most votes that any candidate has ever gotten, second only to Biden. So the country is deeply divided and deeply split, and the election reflects that.
So on that note, what do you see might happen when the results are given out? Because whoever wins, half the country is going to be up in arms accusing the other side of cheating. So do you see violence happening? Let's put it this way. No. If Trump wins, the Democrats won't take it sitting down. I believe cities are going to burn. And if Biden wins, I think that Trump voters are going to say, you cheated, you rigged the elections, we believe Trump, and, they've got the guns. What do you think is going to happen? Nothing.
There's going to be protests, perhaps. I don't think there'll be violence. There was much more violence over the killing of African Americans by the police. This election has been relatively peaceful. I don't believe that half the country thinks it was stolen. I think a lot of people voted for Trump, but they think the election was fair. Only a relatively small number, I think that there was massive cheating, systematic cheating. I think most Americans will accept the election the way elections are accepted in other parts of the world. Remember that corruption is common in elections. You're going to get some amount of fraud in every election. The question is, was there enough of it here to change the outcome? And I haven't seen the evidence of that.
And do you think that if Biden gets in, that they're going to pack the Supreme Court, give citizenship to millions of illegal immigrants, and even add more states like Puerto Rico and other U.S. holdings in order to make sure that the Democrats stay in power?
You'd need the control of the Senate for that. The president doesn't make those decisions. You'd need both houses of Congress to make those decisions, and I think each is different. I think Congress conceivably could vote to pack the court, but I don't think Biden would accept that. I think he would veto a court-packing resolution, because if the court were packed today and 3 justices were added, the next time the Republicans control, they would add 3 more, so we get a Supreme Court that is increasing in number every time there's an election. So I don't think that's going to happen. It could happen, but I doubt it's going to happen. In terms of citizenship for Puerto Rico and other places, that's a reasonable argument. Yeah, it will help Democrats, but why shouldn't Puerto Rico get statehood? So there'll be debates and arguments about that. Both parties will flex their power. If the Democrats have the votes, they will get the votes. In terms of illegal immigrants, many in my family and many Jewish people I know, family came over illegally. My grandfather helped people come over illegally during the Holocaust. So there's a lot of sympathy for DACA, for allowing particularly young babies who were brought over by their parents and have lived all their lives in the country. So there'll be debates about it. I hope we'll have a fair immigration policy, but there'll be a difference. The immigration policy will be more liberal, I suspect, under Biden than it was under Trump, and it was more liberal under Obama. I think we're going to see more or less a return to many of the Obama policies. I hope not the anti-Israel Obama policies, such as the resolution of the Security Council on the eve of Obama's departure, which was outrageous, calling the Western Wall flagrantly illegally occupied territory. I hope we won't see a return to that kind of bigotry against the nation state of the Jewish people. But beyond that, there'll be a change. That's what happens when you have elections. You get changes of policy.
But I just want to say, when you're talking about is your father, you said, that was helping people?
Great. My grandfather.
Your grandfather. Yeah. Those were people running for their lives, and the illegal immigrants. I don't know. Most of them aren't coming. I hear that they're coming for better financial, advantages.
I think many of them are running for their lives. They're running from the Mexican cartels. They're running from corruption. They're running from high crime rates. They're running to better the lives of their family, as most Americans did when they came to this country. Most came legally. I think we ought to expand how people come to the country legally. But people who are here, children particularly, the DACA program was a good one, and I support it completely.
Okay,
Remember,
so hold it right there, Alan, if you may, because
Sure.
we're going to a break right now. We're going to be back with Alan Dershowitz here on the show. Don't go anywhere.
You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
This is Shai Ben-Tekoa, and each week I'll be webcasting to you from Judea, origin of the word Jew, a people besieged and beleaguered in every generation. Nazi Germany's but a memory, but in its place the world invented the phantom Palestinians as this generation's internationally authorized Jew killers. Tune in for a different slant on life in Israel, Phantom Nation, every Monday.
Hi, I'm Rabbi David Aaron. The soul basics are the most profound, the most essential, and yet often the most neglected in our education. Join me for Soul Talk on Israel's News Talk Radio and discover the secrets to love, spiritual growth, and personal power.
All right, we're back here at the Tamar Yonah Show on IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com, and we are speaking with Professor Alan Dershowitz. He is here talking to us about the aftermath of the U.S. elections. He's written dozens and dozens of books. His latest one called Cancel Culture, the latest attack on free speech and due process. And he has a podcast out called The Der Show. And if you follow him on Twitter, you'll be sure to do that. You'll be able to get links to his podcast there. Now, Alan, in the last segment, we were talking about if Biden gets in, and that's what you're probably, that you believe is going to happen in the end. I want to ask you about how that might affect the Middle East, because we've seen with Trump as president, he has brought what's called the Abraham Accords with just at the speed of a bullet, all of these Arab countries like dominoes falling in line to make peace with Israel. The UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia now is looking to make peace with Israel. This is amazing stuff going on here. And now with if Biden does get in, and Iran being a threat to these specific countries that have made peace with Israel or who want to make a peace with Israel, how do you think that's going to take an effect here?
Well, I hope that Biden will continue the Abraham Accords. They are one of the greatest contributions to peace in the Middle East, deserving, I believe, of a Nobel Peace Prize. That's how important and serious it is. I think the tragedy is that Saudi Arabia delayed, apparently, normalization because they want to get a better deal from the Biden administration. But I hope that the Saudis will join in soon. It's in their interest to do so. You know, people ask me all the time, who deserves the credit for the normalization? Is it Netanyahu? Is it Trump? Is it the emirs? Let me tell you who deserves the credit. The Israeli people. They have created a country which has made itself invaluable to the whole Middle East. Their technology, their science, their medicine, their agriculture, their economy, their military. It now is to the advantage of every country in the Middle East, with the exception of Iran, to make peace with Israel and to become allied with Israel. And Israel deserves the credit for that by making themselves an invaluable ally by doing it on their own. And I think that's the most important impact. And that will continue because Israel will continue to be a beacon of strength and a beacon of light in the Middle East. And it's the only enemy of Iran capable of really preventing it from developing nuclear weapons. I hope that Biden doesn't go back to the terrible Iran deal that the Obama administration put forward. If he does go back, I hope that he will extend the sunset provision for another 25 years, and there will be real inspections, and that the deal will include rockets and other means of delivering nuclear weapons. You can't have a nuclear deal that says don't develop nuclear weapons and at the same time allow them to develop delivery systems for nuclear weapons. That's just a green light. That's an invitation to creating a nuclear arsenal. So the Obama deal was an abomination, and it deserved the anti-Nobel Peace Prize or the anti-peace Nobel Prize. But I hope that the Biden administration will be more sensible. The appointment of Tony Blinken, who I know and who is very able, I think is a good sign. He is moderate, a centrist. Yes, he supported the Iran deal, but I think he would hopefully support modifications to the Iran deal as well.
So in one sentence, would you say that you would still be optimistic that things are going to be okay if Biden does win and he takes the presidency? Yes. Okay.
Yes,
so
I do.
On that note, let me ask you this question. You just wrote a book called Cancel Culture, the latest attack on free speech and due process. Now, the same people who are in the Democratic Party and who wield some power there are the ones that are changing American values,
That's right.
and people can't say what they want to say to. They're called racist. They're
That's
shut
right.
up. They're intimidated.
All true.
So
All true.
with him being in power, this just adds fuel and power to them.
No, it takes it away from them.
How?
It adds fuel.
How
it takes
so?
it away because he's against that. He's not a supporter of the squad of AOC. He's not a supporter of cancel culture. He's fighting against it. And he's fighting against it from within the Democratic Party. So I think that, his victory in the primaries was a victory against the cancel culture and a victory in favor of of moderation. Yeah, there are some people in the Democratic Party who believe in the cancel culture. There are people in the Democratic Party, particularly young ones, who are very anti-Israel. And the job of liberal Democrats like me and like President Biden is to marginalize those people in the Democratic Party. Remember, we got 75 million votes. Maybe 1 million of them or 2 million of them were from people who represent the extreme left. These are not progressives, these are regressives, and they have to be marginalized. And I think that Biden would be wise to marginalize them. So far, none of his appointments to the cabinet represent people from that point of view. And if he does put anybody in the cabinet, he'll probably put them in positions like Secretary of Labor, but not positions where they can impact what we read, what we say, and attitudes toward Israel and toward peace. So I'm not concerned about that, but I'm going to keep an eye on it. Part of my job as a liberal Democrat is to help marginalize the extreme left. And just like I think moderate Republicans have an obligation to try to marginalize the extreme right, there are some people who voted for Trump who are terrible, people on the right. That doesn't mean you judge Trump by the worst people who support him. And the same thing is true of Biden. You don't judge him by the worst people who supported him.
Okay, but I understand that the BLM have said that they helped get Biden elected, and they expect to be paid in positions in his administration. What do you have to say about that?
So the Jews have said they helped elect Biden, and evangelical Christians, some say they helped elect Biden, and women say they helped elect Biden, and gays say they helped elect Biden. He was helped by a lot of people, and he will show some support. He will support Black Lives Matter, but he won't support their platform that calls Israel a genocidal country. He will support the general aims of Black Lives Matter, as I think most Americans do. And so, we will see struggles within the Democratic Party over the next 4 years.
Okay. And then when you had Nancy Pelosi talking about the quote unquote peaceful demonstrators, encouraging, people to express themselves, and these Democratic mayors also, they stand down the police, etc. All that is going to go away under a Biden administration?
I think it'll be less, won't go away. We saw also people on the Republican side encouraging demonstrations by people who have turned violent. Both sides should encourage peaceful demonstrations and discourage violent demonstrations, but I don't think you can generalize. Look, the Democrats support a woman's right to choose abortion. They support gay rights. They support the environment. They support opposition to the death penalty. They support fair taxation. They support health care. They support a lot of very good things, which is why I remain a liberal Democrat. I can't support the Republican platform that opposes so many of these things that are basic civil liberties and human rights.
All right. In the last few minutes that we have in the show, tell us about your latest book, Cancel Culture, and also your new podcast that you have, The Dersh Show.
Well, the podcast is so much fun. I do it 5 days a week. I express my views. And then, the motto of the show is called The Dersh Show. All it's missing is wits to make it Dersh Show wits. And the wits are provided by my callers. They ask great questions, and we have great dialogue back and forth. I've had guests. I had Megyn Kelly as a guest. I've had other guests. I'm going to have more guests in the future. I've challenged the Reverend Warnock, who's running as the Democratic nominee in Georgia, to appear on the show because he's expressed very bigoted anti-Israel views, and I want to challenge him on that. So, it's an interesting show. The motto of the show is, I promise you it'll never be boring. And you can get it on, iTunes, YouTube, and all the things, Spotify. And
is it free, or do you need to subscribe?
No, it's free. You subscribe, or if you want to, but it's free. There's no charge for this.
Now, I was on your Twitter, and I saw that it linked to iTunes. I didn't know that it's also on YouTube, as you said. So where can people find you?
You can see it on YouTube. It's visual on YouTube, and it's just verbal on Spotify and iTunes. So any way you want to get it, you can get it. You can listen to it while you're working out in the morning, or you can watch it while you're having coffee. It's around a half hour, Usually I talk for about 15 or 20 minutes, express very strong views. Recently I talked about, the pardon of General Flynn. I talked about whether or not Trump deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. I talked about the cancel culture. I've talked about the election, a lot of updates on the election. I analyzed all the legal issues growing out of the election, and I deal with whatever the current news is. Tomorrow, I'm probably going to deal with attempts to try to disbar Rudy Giuliani and other lawyers who have come to the defense of President Trump. And I've talked about my own defense of President Trump during his impeachment and, why I did it, and some criticisms I've gotten for doing it. So, it's newsy, it's current, it's humorous, and I hope people will listen.
Well, it sounds very exciting. What time do you go live?
I think any time in the afternoon. It's not, you just tune in and you get it. It doesn't have a particular time frame, so you can get it anytime you want it on your demand.
Okay, very good. So we're going to look you up. I'm definitely going to go check it out. It sounds very exciting. Good. And again, if anybody wants to follow him, go follow Alan Dershowitz on Twitter. You can get his updates there. And also you can look him up on YouTube and listen to his new show called The Dersh Show. It's very exciting and very thrilling to have you on the show today. I really enjoyed hearing your answer from somebody who's very logical, someone who's not necessarily extreme right or extreme left. It was very refreshing to have you on, Alan Dershowitz. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for your very good questions. I appreciate it. Good luck on your show.
All right. Thank you. Everybody, thank you for being with us. You can always write me, Tamar, Tamar, at IsraelNewsTalkRadio.com with any comments or questions. Thanks for being with us. I'd like to thank our producer, Tara Mizrahi, for arranging this interview.
Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. Just click the orange button at the top of the IsraelNewsTalkRadio.home page, log in as yourself or an anonymous guest, and join in on the fun. You'll meet other listeners from all over the world who listen to Israel News Talk Radio, and you can make new friends. Israel News Talk Radio's chat room. It's the closest you can get to being in the studio with us.
We love listening to Israel News Talk Radio.
Where can you get the inside news on Israel? At Israel News Talk Radio, we're dedicated to sharing Israel's inside story with the world by providing our listeners with news on Israeli politics, current affairs, and Israeli Jewish culture. The Israel News Talk Radio homepage also provides you, the listener, with useful information at your fingertips, with scrolling news headlines, weather, currency exchange, Shabbat candlelighting times, and so much more. Our radio programming is always accessible and on demand. We operate absolutely free of charge for everyone, everywhere. If you love what we do, partner with us now by becoming an Israel News Talk Radio supporter. With your support, you'll be inscribed on our Israel News Talk Radio Wall of Fame. There's nothing like us in the world. Be part of something great. Israel News Talk Radio. Straight talk from Israel.
If you love Israel News Talk Radio, then you'll love our Facebook page. We keep you up to date on what's happening in Israel, plus little surprise treasures that we don't share on the radio. Go now to follow us on Facebook. Just look for the Israel News Talk Radio Facebook page, and don't forget to subscribe and follow us by clicking on the like button. We post great stuff there that you'll want to share. Israel News Talk Radio on Facebook and Israel News Radio on Twitter.
News, opinion, and more. You're listening to Israel News Talk Radio.